بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. Today we come to the 7th hadith in the chapter of muraqabah, contemplation. السابع عن أبي يعلى شداد بن أوس رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. Shaddad bin Aus radiyallahu ta'ala an. Has anybody heard this Sahabi's name? Shaddad bin Aus radiyallahu an. So he's Abu Ya'la is his kunya. And Shaddad bin Aus, he was from the Aus tribe of the Ansar, right? He is from the Aus tribe of the Ansar. Now, one thing I want to just point out to see if you remember from the past. It's not really that important in the scheme of things. But his name is Shaddad bin Aus bin Sabit bin Munzir bin Haram. And I mentioned that anytime a Sahabi was from Medina, when you had this Ha, Ra, Alif and Mim, their name would be Haram. And anytime there was somebody from Makkah with the same letters, the dot, there would be one difference in dot. And what would that name be? Hizam, right? Hizam. So for example, you have Hakim bin Hizam radiyallahu anh. And remember, in Arabic, originally there were no dots. The dots were added later on. So you'd have the outline of the letters, like you have the Ha shape, and you have the Ra shape, and you have Alif, and you have Mim. There's no dots over there, right? So you could read it, a person is reading, at that time they might read it as Haram, somebody might read it as Hizam, for example, because you're putting the dots in. And so, all of the Sahabas from Makkah, they were named Hizam, and all of the ones from Medina, they were named Haram when they had these 4 letters. Okay, khair, anyway. Now this Sahabi Abu Ya'la, Shaddad bin Aus radiyallahu anh, he was known for his ilm, knowledge, and his acting upon his knowledge, his amal, and along with that his hilm, his forbearance, his tolerance of things. And he was related to another famous Sahabi. He was the nephew of Hassan bin Thabit radiyallahu anh, the poet of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Hassan bin Thabit and Shaddad bin Aus, they were brothers. He narrated 50 hadiths from Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he passed away at the age of 75 in Palestine in the year 58 after Hijrah. Okay. So this is Shaddad bin Aus radiyallahu anh. So he narrates, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. And this hadith is very comprehensive, very short, but it gives us a lot to think about. He says, الكيس من دان نفسه وعمل لما بعد الموت. Al-Kayyis means the extremely wise person. And there's 2 qualities that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions. Al-Kayyisu man dana nafsa. The wise person is the one who takes account of himself. Okay? وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ. And he works for what comes after death. So for example, we read in the Quran, Maliki yawmi deen. So deen, dana, yadinu, daynan. This is what? It's from taking account of oneself. So this is very important. He says that the one who takes account of themselves on a daily basis, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that this is a wise person. And why is this person a wise person, and why is it in this chapter? Remember, this is a chapter of muraqabah, contemplation. And we said part and parcel of muraqabah, of realizing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us at all times and trying to live in such a manner that we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is the state of ihsan, it has to be preceded by what? A person making a promise to Allah that these are the things I'm going to do. And it has to be followed by what? A person following up and seeing how successful they were throughout the day, throughout the week, right? So part of muraqabah, the only way that one can maintain muraqabah is by doing muhasabah and taking account of themselves afterwards, right? And so this is what a person has to do. Mandana nafsahu. So a wise person is one who doesn't just live their life just, haphazardly. Rather what they do is at the end of every day they sit down and think, what did I do Because I have to go in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I have to answer. Was I catching myself throughout the day, or were there things that I missed? وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ. And number two, and they work for what comes after death, meaning what happens in the grave. Because right when a person is about to die, before they die, but they're near death, everything becomes open for them. Now angels will come down. If you're good, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. Angels will come down from Jannah and they will say, don't worry, don't grieve. وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ. And they'll give glad tidings of the Jannah you've been promised. And they'll say, نَحْنُ أَوْلِيَاؤُكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. We are your friends in this life and in the next. وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَشْتَهِي. Go to Jannah, you'll have whatever you wish. وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَدَّعُونَ. You'll have all that you are promised by Allah. نُزُلًا مِنْ غَفُورٍ رَحِيمٍ. This is how the forgiving and perpetually merciful Allah, this is how He welcomes people who lived their life with muraqabah, who lived in this way, who lived knowing that they'd see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So you have to work for that. On the other hand, we have ayat of the Quran. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَتَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. There will be angels who come down to the people who oppress themselves, and they'll say to them, ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ قَالُوا فِيمَا كُنْتُمْ. What were you doing in your life? Or تَتَوَفَّ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ فَأَلْقَوُا السَّلَامَ مَا كُنَّا نَعْمَلُ مِنْ سُوءٍ بَلَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. That's what did you do? The person said, I didn't do anything bad. No, you did do bad. بَلَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah knows what you are doing. فَادْخُلُوا أَبْوَابَ جَهَنَّمَ. Angels will say that to the person. Angels will come down if a person is good, and they'll take the soul out just like water is poured from a jug. This is what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says. For good people. And for bad people, it'll be ripped out. The soul will be ripped out of the body like cotton that's wrapped on thorns. Imagine how painful that will be, right? So the wise person is the one who works for this moment. And there's much else that could be said about this time. The good angels, they come with musk. The bad angels, they come with a disgusting smell. And then right after the soul is extracted, and this hadith is in Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he narrates it. I believe Imam Abu Dawud narrates it as well. That after the soul is taken out, the soul will go up, 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 up into the heavens. Now if the person lived a good life and they were a good soul, all of the inhabitants of the heaven, they'll smell a good fragrance. And they'll say, who is this pure soul? And so then the angel of death or whoever is taking it up will say, it's so and so person. And then they'll describe that person with all of their good names, meaning what good things people said about them in this world. And that soul will go up, up, up to the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make sajda there. And then it will be sent to whoever it's held until Qiyamah, right? And if a person is evil, the stench will be emanating from the soul. And it will go up, and as it's going up, people say, who is this khabis ruh? Who is this khabis nafs? And they'll say, it's so and so person, and then they'll mention all of the bad qualities. That's why a person should want to be known as a good person, as an upstanding person, as an honest person, as a generous person. You don't want to be known as a liar, thief, cheat, abusive person, angry person, because this is what will happen. You'll be called by that, by the inhabitants of the heaven. And then when you try to go up to make sajda to the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it'll be locked, they won't be allowed, and they'll be thrown down into sijjin, right? So this is what happens. So a wise person is the one who works for what comes after death. A poet, he says, very nicely in Arabic, he says, Billahi ya nafsu isma'i wa'qili maqalatan qad qalaha nasihu la yanfa'u al-insanu fi qabrihi illa at-tuqa wal-'amalu as-salihu. That by Allah, O nafs, listen and understand the statement of the one who advises you, who really wants your good. Nothing will benefit a person in their grave except for taqwa, fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and good deeds. So if a person wants to prepare for what comes after death, number one, take account of yourself. Stay away from bad deeds. Number two, leave sadaqah jariyah, right? Leave sadaqah jariyah, so good deeds come to you after you pass away. Number three, invest in the akhirah. Invest in your akhirah. Every single action that you do can fall into one of three categories. Either it's a good deed and it's an investment in your akhirah. Or it's a permissible deed, meaning it's not good, it's not bad. There's an opportunity cost there. You could have done something good there. Or you could have at least added a good intention. I'll give an example. Amir Bhai loves to play cricket, right? He could just play cricket, and Wasim Bhai, you're the champion, right? Or the runner-up. Shahid Bhai is the champion, right? Shahid Bhai, right? So, look, you could go and play cricket. It's mubah, permissible. You won't get good deeds, you won't get bad deeds. Maybe you'll get bad deeds if you get into a fight in the game, right? But if you go with the intention that I'm going to have, good relations with my brothers, and I'm going to keep myself in shape, and this body is aman, then you can get good deeds. But in and of itself, it's not good, it's not bad. Then there's things, other actions that we do, it'll take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we're planning for what comes after death, what do we have to do? We have to work for what comes after, invest in our akhirah. Anytime you're tired, right? And then now Isha is late, you don't feel like coming, so let me invest in my akhirah. I'll just go ahead and I'll go. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give me a reward. It's cold in the morning, no, I'll get up. Okay, somebody's asking for money, they're always asking for money. It's okay, let me invest in my akhirah. Any little thing that we do, realize that this is planning for after our death. You're contributing to your, in IAGD, what does he say? This doctor, I forgot his name. But it was a 401J, Dr. Usman Master, Brother Usman, 401J plan. You're investing in your 401 Jannah plan, right? So any deed that we do, that's how we invest. So that's the wise person, that's what Rasulullah says. Now he contrasts that with the foolish person. وَالْعَاجِزُ, and the fool is مَنْ أَتْبَعَ نَفْسَهُ هَوَاهَا, the one who drives himself behind his desires. Meaning he pushes and he propels himself to follow his desires. And hawa means, fanciful desires, khahishat. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But at the end of the day, all sorts of desires. And then, not only do that, so they don't care about investing in the akhirah. They want to invest in the dunya. But وَتَمَنَّى عَلَى اللَّهِ, but yet they still have very high hopes on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Many high hopes on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, this word amani means like just wishful thinking, wishful hopes. What does this mean? We hear this all the time. People are doing all sorts of bad things. And then what do they say? Allah is Ghafurur Rahim. It doesn't matter. I'll go to Jannah eventually. First of all, that's a big statement. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take away our iman at the time of death. Hazrat Shaykh Mawlana Zakaria rahmatullahi alayhi says the most unfortunate person will be the person that he was born and given a Muslim name. Aqiqah was done for him. He did a Muslim nikah. He had children who he gave Muslim names. He died, he had a janazah prayed on him. But on the day of judgment, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَامْتَازُ الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ, separate, O criminals, O kuffar, separate, this person will have to go. Because they did things in their life and iman was taken away from them at the time of death, right? So to say that, we'll go to Jannah eventually, that's a big statement. Number two, even if a person could go to Jannah, right? Can a person turn on the stove and put their hand on the stove for 5 minutes? For 1 minute? For 30 seconds, you won't be able to tolerate it. But the fire of Jahannam is 70 to 100 times hotter than this. So how could a person say, I'll go to Jannah and I'll just deal with this punishment? No, just because you have a cream or you have an ointment that could heal you doesn't mean that you injure yourself. You try to avoid injury and you have a backup plan in case you get injured. No sane person would injure themselves. Along with that, we'll say one other thing. A person, when they say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafurur Rahim, I can do whatever we want, let's analyze what you're saying. If a kafir says this, if a Hindu says this, if a Christian says this, in your Quran it says that Allah is very merciful and very forgiving, so I'll continue to live my life the way that I am and I'll worship whatever I worship and I'll go to heaven as well. Will we accept that? Will you say that it's okay? Anyone? No. If a Hindu says that, will we say that? No, we will say that. You can't. So what do we understand from that? We understand Allah has principles. Allah has usul as well, principles. So what are some of the usul of Allah? فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. The one whose scale of deeds is heavy, they'll be in everlasting bliss. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. The one whose scale is light, their destination is Jahannam. Another of the usul and principles that Allah has, وَأَلَّيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. A man has nothing except that what he struggles for. وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى. And soon his struggle and his effort will be seen. It will be seen. So these are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's principles as well. And so what we learn from this is that we live in a place, Darul Asbab. You have to work, you have to struggle. That's what's seen. When it comes to school, if a student says, I'm going to just make a lot of dua and I'm not going to study for my exam, what will you say to him? Good job? No, you're going to fail the exam. You won't do well on the exam. That's because we live in Darul Asbab. So students, they study very hard. If a person says, I'm not going to work, I'm just going to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm going to sit, my rizq is already written, it's going to just come to me? No. Everybody will say, you have to go out, you have to work. For everything in the dunya, we realize that we have to work. Similarly, we need to apply this to the akhirah as well. Adopt whatever means that are needed in order to invest in our akhirah. Show that we're a wise person, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl will come on us. Yes, me and you, we're not capable of doing anything. At the end of the day, it's Allah's mercy that will allow us to go to Jannah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, every servant will enter Jannah with Allah's mercy. So the Sahaba said, what about you, Ya Rasulullah? Your deeds aren't enough to take you to Jannah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, not even me, illa ayyataghammadani Allahu bi rahmati. Except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wraps me with His mercy. But the thing about this, Allah's fadl and mercy and grace and bounty, this is the engine that propels us to Jannah, okay? But what is the sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl is there? It's our good deeds. A car has an engine, right? Even the electric cars, they still have an engine, right? So we're not talking about the fuel here. We're talking about an engine. A car has an engine. The engine that drives us to Jannah is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl. But when a car is just sitting there, if you see a car in the parking lot, it's possible that there's an engine inside of there. It's possible that there's no engine inside of there, right? You don't know. But when a green light is put in front of that car, right, that car will start to go, right? The car will start to go. If it doesn't have any engine, it won't go. But if a green light is put there and the car has an engine, it will go. Otherwise, if it's sitting in front of a red light, you won't know whether it has an engine or not. Similarly, when a person is doing good deeds, this is a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl is there, right? So don't wait until everything will be settled on the Day of Judgment. No. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked by the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, the hadith is in Tirmidhi Sharif, that, Ya Rasulullah, is everything decided or not? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yeah, it's decided. Allah knows what's going to happen. They said, shouldn't we just take it easy? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, you have to keep doing. كُلُّ مُيَسَّرٌ لِمَا خُلِقَ لَهُ. For each person, it's been made easy to do whatever they've been created for. So the fact that you're doing good deeds, that you're in the masjid, that you're listening to ahadith, that you're reading Quran, is a sign Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you for Jannah, and vice versa. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's there. Now, after we do our work, we need to realize how the value of our work, and sorry I'm going a little bit long, 2 minutes, 3 minutes inshallah. What we need to understand is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl is there. But once we start to work, then we realize the value of our deeds when coupled with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl. Right? What is that? And what is the value of our deeds without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl? The value of our deeds without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl, imagine that you get an extremely high paying job. You get paid $100,000 every day. And you work day and night for this. You put if a person were to work, let's say, 20 hours a day, but you know you'd make $100,000 every day, you probably do it, right? You probably would. Now let's say you work like this for 50 years. How much money would you have accumulated in that time? Billions of dollars, right? Now with that billions of dollars, this is just our deeds without Allah's fadl. It's our efforts in this world. Can you buy all of Manhattan? Can you buy it? You might have $100 billion. Can you buy all of Manhattan? No. I doubt you'd be able to even purchase maybe the Empire State Building. Would you be able to purchase all of Farmington Hills, which is not New York City? I doubt it. Would you be able to purchase Detroit, even though, there's all these foreclosed houses, everything? I don't think you'd be able to. Would you be able to purchase the GM building? Maybe for $100 billion you could, but you couldn't get the whole downtown.
A lot less.
What I'm saying is, with that amount of money, with this huge amount of money, what will you really be able to get at the end of the day? Very small parcel of land in this world, right? But the lowest person in Jannah, the person with the lowest amount of deeds will be given 10 times this world. Why? Because Allah's fadl is now attached to those deeds. So our deeds without Allah's fadl, nothing. What are you going to get with it? We work our whole lives trying to pay off a house, right? But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl, what will happen? 10 times this world for the person that did the least deeds. And so now then you're going to say, well, if Allah's fadl is there, why do I need to work? And this is where I'll end. It's another example. Sometimes we tell our kid, right? Just go over there and I'll give you something. Just like your child, you know that they're going to fall, they're struggling. You need to just walk over here, I'm going to give you this candy. Your goal was to give them the candy in the first place, right? You're going to give them the candy. Whether they walk, whether they fall, like a child, you're going to give them the candy at the end of the day. But if the child says no, and they just sit there and they refuse to do, what are you going to say? This is just your zid, right? Similar, now think of another example. If, Minhaj Bhai, he tells me that you walk from one step of the masjid, one side of the masjid to the other side of the masjid, and every single step I'll give you $1,000, right? That means that he's planning on giving it to me. It's such an easy task, right? What if I sit down and I say, no, I'm not going to, why should I have to? You're going to give it to me anyway. Why do I need to do that? What will he say? It's all, why are you being so stubborn? This is showing what type of person you are. Forget you. And he'll just walk away, he'll keep on moving, right? So what do we learn from today? A wise person is the one who realizes Allah is watching them. This is muraqabah. Keep that in your mind. Because you know Allah is watching you, try your best to do good deeds. When you do these good deeds, it will attract Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fadl. It will show Allah's bounty is with you. Then you'll be considered a wise person. And if you forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would have wasted our lives. And then we'll have our high hopes on Allah, and whatever happens, happens. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah make us people who keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in mind at all times. Wa akhiru da'wana. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Shaykh.